coming along and speed skating. But anyway, I invited Derek to come in. And as Derek was coming in, I said to him, what was the most memorable part of your Olympics? I expected him to say getting the gold medal. But that's not what he said. He said it was being honored to carry in the American flag that had flown above the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001, to carry that flag into the opening ceremonies. Because he said he was one of 8 athletes, by the way, chosen by their colleagues to carry in this flag. And they had to carry it in horizontally because it's badly torn and burned, but it did survive. And he said, we carried it in, and when it was announced, we expected the crowd in the stadium to burst into cheers. But instead, total silence, complete reverence. And he said, so we carried the flag and stopped in front of the choir, and they began performing the national anthem. And he said, it was hard for me to hold on to my emotion as they were singing those words, and I was holding that flag. And then the choir did something he hadn't expected. I knew it was coming because I got to choose the version of the national anthem they sang. And the version I chose was from the 1930s by a composer named Robert Shaw, where you repeat the last line as a reprise. And the second time through, the orchestra gets much more voluminous and the sopranos go up an octave. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And he said this second time, as they began singing that reprise, a gust of wind blew in the flag and lifted it in their hands. And he said, Mitt, for me it was as if the spirits of all those that had fought and died for American liberty had just blown in that flag. And he said that was the most memorable experience of my Olympics. And of course, him telling me that made it the most memorable experience of my Olympics as well. And so as we come here tonight and see that flag, I hope we recognize the majesty and greatness of the sacrifice made that allows us to live in freedom and allows us, by the way, to vote. And my message this evening is that the reason I hope we think about voting is not just because an election might be won by only one vote. It's not very likely. The reason I vote every time I can possibly vote is to say yes to that sacrifice. To say yes for the sacrifice of those that gave us the privilege of voting. I want the records of Utah and the records of my town, Holiday. I want them to show that I voted, that I appreciate the sacrifice that was made. And I'm hopeful that each of you in our communities as we go home and as we get on with our lives, when those ballots arrive, when that mail piece arrives, that not only do you vote, but that you get some colleagues. You say, hey, did you send your ballot in? Please send it in. And remind them of the sacrifice that was made so we have the right to vote. And you don't have to tell them who to vote for. Just get them to vote. Our state is one of the lowest voting participation states in the country, which is unbelievable because we're so patriotic. But we do the calculation. One vote won't make a difference. But it makes a difference to you and to your heart to know that that sacrifice is accepted and you voted yes. So thank you for being here this evening. I appreciate your help. I don't know if you've got any questions you want to ask before we, oh, there's a hand right there. I'll take your question and then I'm going to let you go. Yes. I'll repeat your question if no one else can hear it. Go ahead.
I'm just concerned because you were a never-Trumper.
Oh, I'm concerned because you were a never-Trumper. And that was okay because there was a time when I didn't want to vote for him. But then when he became the nominee, I accepted that. And as I listened to him, I felt good about what I felt he was going to do. And as we're going through these Kavanaugh hearings, it's despicable what the Democrats are doing to a really good man. But I'm also really concerned about the Republican senators who are having a hard time deciding and believing this good man. And because you were never Trumper, and you have said things about Mr. Trump that made me a little concerned, because one of the things that's great about our country is, okay, we have an election, we have a new president, we sit back and try to support him. And I wonder, when you go to Congress, and I'm willing to work for you and do all of the things, but are you going to be a never-Trumper in Congress and be an obstructionist to the Trump agenda?
Let me respond to that, which is, I will support the president when the policies are good for Utah and for the country. And if I disagree, by the way, if I disagree, why, I'll point that out and I'll fight for Utah and fight for our country. If one expected me just to do whatever the president wants, why, you wouldn't elect a senator.
Yeah.
You just say, well, just let the president do whatever he wants. But the president needs to listen to others and hear their concerns about rural Utah, hear their concerns about energy resources, education, health care. These are things, by the way, I have some experience in. I've known the president for a long time. When I agree with him, I'll be there 100%. When I disagree, I'll point that out. With regards to the Kavanaugh hearings, I think the senators are duty-bound to wait and listen to both Judge Kavanaugh as well as Professor Ford, listen to what they have to say, and then draw their conclusion. Because they are, after all, they're in a position to evaluate. That's their job right now, not to be partisan, but to evaluate. They're in that evaluation mode. So I give them a little slack in terms of letting them hear, on both sides, by the way. They both should be listening and evaluating, not jumping to conclusions until they hear from the people involved. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so my next question is, I am a Trump supporter myself. I moved here from Miami, Florida, just to vote for you. And my question is, you know what? When I realized how much Republicans we do need in this country, my question is, in the future, will you run again for president?
No, not doing that one. Two times is enough. 2 times is enough. So I'm not going to be a senator from Utah. I'll tell you my predictions. He says 3 times you're out. No, 2 times you're out for president. There must be a sport where 2 times and you're out. I'm not sure which it is. Maybe when you get hit by the ball, all right, you're out. But my prediction is that the president will face a primary, but he will win easily in the primaries. And I think that's likely to happen. And then I think the Democrats will nominate Elizabeth Warren. I think she's the most likely nominee. I saw a group called Axios that does all the analysis, and they say the most likely to get the Democratic nomination is Elizabeth Warren. And if they nominate Elizabeth Warren, I think the president will win re-election easily. So that would be, let's see, 6 or 7 years from now. That would make me what? Let's see, I'm 71 now. I'd be 78. No one has ever run for president that old. So don't worry, I'm not running for president again. But I want to thank you. Look, this evening, thank you for being here. There are probably some more J-Dogs. If you got some more questions coming up, and we'll chat. But it's wonderful to be with you. Please vote. And as they say in some places, vote early and vote often. Thank you.